Tonight's event is co-hosted by Tablet Magazine, a daily online magazine of Jewish ideas, news, and culture. Len Small, Tablet's art director and a big fan of Vanessa's, will formally introduce Vanessa and Tablet contributor Marjorie Ingall in a moment. But first, some logistics. Following their presentation, Vanessa and Marjorie would be happy to take your questions. I'll be walking around with this microphone, so please wait for that before you speak. And then Vanessa will sign copies of her book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming Vanessa Davis and Tablet Magazine's Len Small and Marjorie Ingall to the Strand.
Thank you. I'm just going to make this short and sweet for you guys. My name is Len Small. As you said, I'm the art director of Tablet, and we are an online magazine of Jewish life and culture. I was introduced to the amazing work of both of our guests around the same time, over a year ago when I started at Tablet. It should come as no surprise to have them together tonight. Both Vanessa and Marjorie create energetic stories of family, relationships, neuroses, personal drama, and of course being Jewish and very, very funny. Don't tell anyone this, but Vanessa Davis reminds me of my first girlfriend from the 8th grade. She was a little too cool for me because she already had better taste in music and comic books than I did. And then she showed me her sketchbook, and I truly understood that she was way out of my league. On first read, Vanessa Davis's comics reminded me of other great autobiographical cartoonists like Linda Berry, Julie Doucette, Chester Brown, Myra Coleman, the Crumbs, Art Spiegelman, and the late Harvey Carr, with whom Vanessa was fortunate enough to have started a collaboration before he died. But when you really page through Make Me a Woman, fantastic book, you become ensnared by the rhythm of her vivacious, sharp, and passionate stories. She's not afraid to cut deep in the core of the flaws in herself or her mother or other relationships and experiences. But whatever trip you take with her, you still feel elated at the end, just like that first crush. Vanessa is also the author of Spaniel Rage, as well as many other fantastic illustrations and comics that can be found on tablets. The New York Times Creamer's Ergo in the collection, Stuck in the Middle, 17 comics from an unpleasant age. I have also the pleasure of collaborating with Marjorie Ingall over the course of last year, and she helped me fulfill another childhood dream, creating a choose-your-own-adventure story. But in true Marjorie fashion, the book was entitled Planet of the Helicopter Parents. Besides contributing a weekly parenting column at Tablet, she is the author of The Field Guide to North American Males, and co-author of Hungry, a young model's story of appetite, ambition, and the ultimate embrace of curves. Please give a big welcome to Vanessa Davis and Marjorie.
Wow, that was a really amazing introduction. Thank you, Lynn. Good job. So, Marjorie and I have gone over.
No, you go.
Okay.
You go.
I have a slideshow with some images and stories from the book, but I think more than reading them to you, as you're, hopefully will enjoy reading them more when just to yourself than to me to you. We'll show you some of the images and talk about some of the stories in the book and go from there. Right? Sorry. Okay.
Do you want to, right before when you guys were sitting down, we were talking about my favorite, among many favorite things about Vanessa's work, is just looking at girls and looking at their hair and looking at their bodies and looking at how they're dressed. And we were talking about how, in our email correspondence, this is actually the first time we've met, we had never talked about how the thing that her work really reminds me of is the classic old comic Love and Rockets, which is also a real celebration of women and how they dress and being hot and curvy, basically.
I think that I've talked to other cartoonists who seem to notice my focus on clothing in the stories, and they're like, oh, you really make you really focus on the clothes that everyone's wearing. You don't just give people a t-shirt and jeans. And I think that a lot of it is I'm obsessed with clothes, and I'm obsessed with looking at hair and clothes. And what I haven't always been able to achieve with my own look in real life, I can always, I can kind of like live out every single look, in my work. And I really enjoy looking at other people's fashion and the way that they put their clothes together, and kind of what you can learn or judge or assume about people.
Yeah, their character.
Yeah, like based on the appearance that they put forth, and like with what's so great about Love and Rockets is that it's such a humanistic comic that Jaime is like in love with his characters, and he stays with them for decades, and so nothing is general about them. Everything is very specific, and that includes their, how they act and how they feel, but also definitely how they look. And you pick these a really cool look. Like there's not a lot of other things that are cooler than like Latina punk rockers from the 80s.
Right. And you were talking about how after sort of your boyfriend introduced you to these comics, it changed how you dressed.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I didn't actually, I was kind of a latecomer to reading a lot of comics, and so when I got more and more involved in doing them myself, I was introduced to so many more artists, and so Trevor, my boyfriend, had all of the Love and Rockets, and when I first found them, I became obsessed and just read through all of them immediately, but it was also right around the time that I moved to California, and that comic takes place in California, and it's sort of one of the things I think that comic celebrates, among a lot of things, is also just kind of these people making big mistakes with their lives. Like they're not like these East Coast Ivy League school attending nice Jewish girls or anything like that. They're like, they never went to, a lot of them like didn't go to school. They find themselves in dark alleys and worse places, like horrible situations and stuff, but you still really respect them and love them. And I was like, maybe that's a California thing. Like, like there's no East Coast pressure to like really be successful. And I found that really comforting when I moved away from New York.
And what it means to be, he tracks them through time, and what it means to grow up is also a big theme in your work. And what constitutes being a grown-up, and what are the expectations around being a grown-up.
Right, and just all of the opportunities you have to just mess up, and how often that happens, and how that's just a part of life that you move forward with. So I really appreciated that about that comic, as well as the leggings as pants that Maggie put.
The first jeggings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I don't. Should we sort of start talking about some of the work that we're going to show?
Yeah.
I love this one because the mom thing. The mom thing is a thing in your work. There's my mom over there. So, I guess we're not going to read.
Yeah, not going to read. But the story is called Stick in the Mud, and it's sort of, I love my mom. She has a really great, kind of robust personality, but one of the things that she does, which I know from talking to a lot of people, like a lot of their moms do it, there's just something. She's like a sensual lady, and like she loves to talk about things, and that's really and that's really in this way that just drives my sister and I insane. And so I love my mom, and I think she is she's definitely passed that down to me. While I don't feel comfortable like molesting a notebook because its paper feels so soft, I might secretly enjoy how the notebook paper feels. So, and I definitely get that from her. So I kind of wanted to both poke fun and celebrate this quality of my mom, and I found myself in a perfect scenario to do that when we found ourselves at a mud bath spa in Calistoga together, which is like the last. My sister and I, when we go to the beach, even if it's noon in Florida at the beach and the sun is bearing down on our backs, we won't ask her to put sunblock on us because we're it's too touchy-feely, whatever, we'll just burn, it's fine. But here I am, my mom and I were naked, and my mom's not, we're the ones that are being crazy, she's just, being fine, but but so I just kind of also poke fun of myself because we found ourselves in these close quarters. We're in this shower stall sized sauna together with like a paper towel sized towel, and I just had to deal with it, and it was fine. We had a great time. So I just wrote about that in this strip. And then it's just also about how like where does that come from? Like where does that skeeviness come from? It's like how like when I think it's maybe also as you would get older, there's only just so when your parents remind you like, oh, I used to change your diapers, or I used to you were so funny when you did this horribly embarrassing thing.
My body, Mom.
Right, and so I think it's like that's where those boundaries come from, and so I talk about I have to save a little bit of myself just for me that she can't know, but she knows. I don't know. She just does. This is like her her magic skill. But anyway, so that's what this story is about.
I also like that it's just mother and daughter relationships are so rich and fertile and for everybody, and I think it's all women are really interested in them, and the kind of mom, this sort of more, certainly the way you portray her as this very, succulent mom, it tends not to be an image that you see, or, that it's one more example of how your work is something that we really don't get elsewhere very often.
Well, and it's so funny, too, because I feel like, what most people have said when they've read this strip is that their mother is exactly the same. And I'm really, I'm very close with both of my parents. My father passed away about 13 years ago. And I've always had a really intense relationship with my mom, and I've always thought about it a lot, the way people do with their, and it's just, so I think I've paid a lot of attention to what it is about my relationship with my mom that makes it the way it is, like just the same way I've paid attention, it's just, yeah.
I mean, I do, one thing that I've read a lot of these strips before in tablet and elsewhere, but I was struck when you see them collected in a book, and maybe this is my projecting as somebody who also lost her father too young, that the absence of your father sort of hangs over the book, and there's just a couple of direct addresses of it, and they hit you like a punch in the gut each time. Yeah. And when we were talking earlier, you had said that you didn't feel quite ready as a writer to really address it head on.
Yeah, I mean, I was very close with my dad. He was pretty much my best friend, and so it's hard when I write about him. I find that either, first of all, I'm still sort of figuring out how that relationship has shaped me, and how my loss of him has shaped me, and so it's sort of hard to. I feel like it's easiest to write and draw about something that you really know about, like even if you're discovering it as you're writing about it, like you still have a pretty good idea about it, and my relationship with my dad is still something that I'm figuring out, but then also it's like I have all of these really positive, sweet, sentimental memories of him, because he was just really fun. He was also a complex person like my mother was, but also he died when I was 19, and as mature as I might have been, I still had a child's understanding of his personality and his accomplishments and his, who he was, whereas with my mother, I'm an adult and they're more complicated. So it's kind of better in a writerly way to write about my mom, whereas with my dad, people like the comics I do about my dad because they're sweet, but they're like, I don't know, it doesn't feel very, I don't know, you're
not ready to hit the full nuance.
Yeah.
Like, the treatment, the one I'm thinking of is, if I wear this necklace, nothing bad will happen.
Yeah.
And then, like, the actual memory of the moment that your mother told you.
Right.
That those are encapsulated little moments in time. And maybe that'll be a thing that you will deal with in the future is more, because I'd be interested to see where you go.
Yeah, me too.
Should we click ahead and see
Sure.
where we end up?